healthy. Welcome to my channel. My name's Kenley. I'm sorry that it's late. I was meant to go live at 7:15 and it's now 8:08 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. So this video is a video that is basically about my autoimmune symptoms and how they affected me and how it manifested in my day-to-day life. And so I've got some notes here. So hope you've had a good Mother's Day, all the mums out there, all the mums to be also. Hope you've been spoiled rotten because you deserve it. Right. So the first thing that I became aware of muscle cramps. I used to get them in my toes, where my toes and also my fingers would cramp all up together, and the pain was that horrible. It used to I'd have to try and counteract, because they just clench up on their own by themselves. And so, with my toes, if it happened in one of my hands, that's what I tried to do. It was awful, awful. And so that was the first sort of cramps in my muscles that I experienced. Also looking back though, way back to school life, secondary school, I used to always suffer with a weird stitch. Sometimes it'd be down my neck and sort of across my shoulder, and very commonly in most cases I would say that was the most regular and common type of stitch that I experienced. And I didn't think anything of it at the time, but a couple of people had said to me at school, "You've always got a stitch. Are you eating your dinner too fast? Are you stood up, or moving or eating?" And I would say some of the time, more than likely, I could have been, definitely. But the majority of the time, no. And so they just called me weird, which was a regular thing, and I took it as a compliment, that being said. So yeah, this progressed. And so, along with the finger and toe cramps, I started getting cramp in my bum, like my buttock cheeks. Sometimes just I had to lifting my leg up if it was at a certain angle. Sometimes just getting out of, a car. Things like that. And I just thought, well, I could have a possible vitamin or mineral deficiency, and that definitely is something that we all need to be aware of. And usually I'm not any medical professional, but I'm a me and my body professional, and I would say that my lifestyle was very unhealthy, as in food, and in my personal life as well. and the relationships that I have, you know, sort of been in sometimes. You know, I'm not blaming anyone or pointing any fingers. So, you know, as far back as I can remember, you see, because I believe that it's all interlinked. So yeah, for a long time, looking back, I had and do sometimes struggle with like a pessimistic view on things. Not that I want to, but you know, I've got a tendency to sometimes feel defeatist, and you know, because it didn't help with the extreme fatigue, you know, sometimes sleeping after school, even before my tea, sometimes, you know, none of my friends did this to my knowledge. If anybody watching this has experienced that, you know, then I was about 13, 12, 13 onwards, you know. The fatigue never really stopped until I experimented with amphetamines, and I found a new lease of life. And so that was, you could say, like the precursor, the catalyst that sort of snowballed, progressively getting worse and worse as time went on. One thing I will say about how that affected me on a physical level, I didn't know at the time, and then when I started to do research and look into things, the correlation between adrenal fatigue and lower backache, very low mood, you know, like a mindset of fear, it's all linked to being in fight, flight or freeze mode. And when you take a stimulant drug, whether that's caffeine, cocaine, amphetamines, you know, stuff like that, stimulants, you are, you know, basically on a rush everywhere, you know. It gives you energy, it makes you chatty, it gives you get up and go. And I am starting to believe now, definitely, that, just bear with me. Yeah, I'm starting to realise the real lies I told myself that I didn't realise. I'm just trying to tighten this up a little bit, if I can find the doodah, which is here, right. So yeah, so you know, you're going to burn more fuel, you're going to put yourself under more stress, and you know, add to the mix bad diet, very poor nutrition, if any, sometimes, you know, because sometimes I didn't eat. And at my worst, abusing amphetamines, because I was abusing it, there was no doubt in my mind. And by that I mean there was no moderation. It was, every day was party day. I never wanted the party to end, you know, like, and that was a real emotional attachment, an unhealthy one, that I can see really clear now. Like, you know, staring me in the face, shit, hitting me in the face like a freight train, you know. I'd proper derailed from a good life. So, you know, sometimes I would purposely miss meals. I've been in some really painful, unhealthy relationships, and I'm not pointing the finger, like I say again, I'm not ever pointing the finger, but the one that sticks out in my mind a lot is the husband that I am separated from, would like to get a divorce from, but I don't want to line any, you know, solicitors' pockets. I don't want to get any negative, you know, situations arising. So possibly I need to look at that, because, you know, but the way I think about it is, I will never, ever, never, ever, 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 ever get married again. Not in the sense that society sees marriage. Anyway, why? Well, that's another video. But it's weaponised against whoever wants to do the right thing in a toxic world. But like I say, that's another video entirely. And so the fact that, you know, because I am, like I say, I've just shared my opinion with you about that, just briefly. But I know for a fact, I don't need any marriage, I don't need any piece of paper or anything, contract-wise, to show that I am, you know, loyal and dedicated to that person, and that, you know, so I don't need the validation, that's all I'm saying, from a piece of paper. But out of myself and my ex, who I'm on about, I could be wrong, and I'm not bothered if I am. It's not even about that. But my opinion is, he will want a divorce before I do. You know, I'm not even able to work at the minute. And he's got a full-time job. So there's a lot of things going on behind the scene in my life that negatively impact my financial situation. That being said, shit could be a lot worse, a lot worse. And so I'm grateful for everything that I have, the things that I perceive that I have not, I have. Anyway, enough of that. And so I was always in a fear-based mindset. And from an early age, I struggled. And when I say struggled, I struggled with really low mood, real debilitating self-esteem, or lack thereof. I had no boundaries. I still struggle with that to this day, you know. And so what comes hand in hand with that, which is also another toxic characteristic or behaviour, or psychosomatic, body mind symptomatic, right? I just remember feeling insignificant, invisible, invalidated, ignored. Don't matter. Well, insignificant. I felt alone, isolated, and in a lot of ways I definitely put myself there, and there was not just one reason why, there was quite a few. And one of them, and I will say in order of priority, was so that my dad didn't worry, because I looked a mess, right? Rewinding a bit, because I did say about when I was at my worst, when I abused amphetamines, and I lost a lot of weight because of skipping meals purposely, by accident. And also, there was really bad times when I just thought, who needs food when you can take some fat? Yeah, a twat. But yeah, that was me back then. I had so much self-hatred going on. I'd got into a really massive decline in self-worth. Like, I didn't even think it could get any worse, but it did. So at my worst, I was wearing, what age was I? I was possibly 18, 19. More than likely, probably 19 to 20, age of 19 to 20, so I got down to about 6 stone. That's what I can remember reading on the bathroom scales at one point. Yeah, I can remember having a battle with myself, because I started to realise that I needed something to eat, because I was starving. But I used to look in the mirror. I didn't feel that I was anorexic. You know, but possibly from the outside looking in, you know. But I know that anorexia nervosa is, I don't know, yeah, it's an emotional, also mental and physical disease, you know. Disease as in disease, no peace, no comfort, you know. So I was wearing age 11, girls age 11 trousers. And the few times that I did see my parents or my cousin, I just used to shrug it off and make light or a joke of it, and didn't really pay it much attention. I sort of wanted to die, you know. I remember thinking a lot of times how I wanted my friends to, if they came to see me, like in my head and in my heart, I'd be begging them to not leave me, because of the darkness that would follow. You know, like, so it was a bad time in my life. But that's another video. So yeah, adrenal fatigue and fear. A very massive impacts on your overall health, primarily your immune system. Why? Well, your kidneys excrete, metabolic waste, and that could be and is dead cells and tissue and things of no use to the body or that could be toxic to the body. And I didn't realise this at the time either, but there used to be, well, people used to say and refer to the skin as the third kidney. And like with everything else, because I've had adult acne, I've had problem skin, but it's like progressive the way that it's affected me. And it's got worse as I've got older, and normal pubic changes, puberty changes, growing up, you might get some, flare-ups of acne or be prone to spots, but mine sort of was after that. The doctor just called it adult acne. I believed in the doctors back then. I wanted anything going, I believed in them that much, and why don't I know? If you really want to know, leave a comment down below. I'll do a video all about it. So when you're stressed, you release cortisol. And if you keep your foot down on that gas pedal of that fear and all these toxic, lifestyle habits and detrimental behaviours, it starts to affect your parathyroid, which is all about your mental health and your mood in general. So it's a major factor in depression. So when your doctor says to you, like they did say to me, not on one occasion, but many and several, and then it got to the point where I didn't want him to, I asked for him. I wanted the drugs. I wanted the quick fix. I just wanted to take a pill and everything be better, right? But I'm here to tell you, whoever's watching, don't go down that route. Your doctor doesn't want you to get well. Many, or the majority, I would say. The reason I say this, and you can test it for yourself, and most of you probably have, cognitive dissonance aside, when does your doctor give you a remedy, right? Not a cure. Never, ever, unless they're a naturopathy, trained naturopath, natural doctor, right? They're expensive and they're rare and hard to come by, and so now I'm inclined to think, or I'll correct that. Well, now I know. And the reason that I know not to trust doctors is because they just treat the symptoms only. So it's all fine. We have a headache. I'm sure just about every person in the population, aside from children, babies, obviously, has taken paracetamol to get rid of a headache, just so that they can get through the day, and do what's necessary in that day. That being said, when does one start to wake up and become self-aware? If this pattern keeps arising and becomes a regularity, which in autoimmune, headaches are rampant, you know. That was another symptom. And it was a daily symptom, all day, all night. And at that point, I knew that gone are the days that I can go to bed and sleep off that headache, you know. Literally, sometimes, you know, I was taking too many paracetamols before learning about the power of fruit and detoxification of the body. So right, I was on headaches. Yeah, every day, without fail, right? Every day without fail, I would have a headache. You know, and I was never lying about it. You know, in fact, it was the other way around. I was dismissive of my shit going on. I was dismissive. I just tried to battle on. Yeah, my mood changed. You know, I've been a shit mum because the pain I was in. And like, let's not get it twisted, right? I'd repressed, which is another thing I link to general practitioners in general. Because that's all they do. They put a band-aid on a cut or a symptom, but they never give you any advice that, you know, that requires, you know, a lifestyle diet change, that, you know, something that you can like use to your advantage and actually learn about what you did wrong or what you're now doing right, okay? And so I just learned to repress everything. And so the drugs were probably the second factor that, you know, got me into the mess of autoimmune and real poor health, you know, not just a bad day, week or year. I'm talking long term, you know, with horrible symptoms that just progressed. Yeah, I'd get these like electrocuting type shooting pains. At school, I experienced this a lot, and I can remember asking a few people, you know, because it'd make me jump, literally. They would make me jump because the pains, it was like a searing pain. Until just, you know, talking about it now, I'd forgot about it. But, you know, sometimes, and I don't care if it's too much info, get the fuck off my channel. I swear. So what? Sue me, right? So yeah, I'd get them up my arse, you know, in school, anywhere, it didn't matter where. And they really, really hurt, just really hurt, like being sexually violated. And yeah, I do know what that's like. What else? colic type stomach aches. I think doctors call it abdominal migraine these days. I could be wrong. But like, you know, I would sometimes, if I left eating too sort of long, and you know, a lot of the time this was out of my control because I was at infant or junior school, and you know, you get told when you can shit, sit, talk, walk, you know, whatever, which I just think is tyrannical, if anyone wants to know. So yeah, I believe that this could be a dairy intolerance also, or you know, so yeah, how can I describe it? Like, I couldn't straighten my body out because it just hurt too much. Like, I felt like my stomach was ripping open and it'd come in waves. I mean, I've had a child, you know, not recently, 13 years ago, but you know, so I wouldn't have known what contractions were like, obviously, back then. But I mean, they were nearly as painful as that, and I'm not fucking lying. I'm not lying. But they also had a weird effect on me. Like, I'd go out and cold. I was like in a cold sweat, but I'd get these waves of pain, and I'd get like what I can only describe as like goose pimples all down my face, like this wave of pain through my body. And so I had to lie on the floor. The only way I could even get rid of it was to lie down on the floor and, like, you know, with my knees up to my body like this, you know, for however long it took. It didn't matter where I was, you know, who I was with. That was the only way that I could, you know, try and ease the pain. Pardon me. Also, I used to get jaw ache, not where my mandibles attached to my skull, but like below the gum line in my teeth, but like in the bone root area. I mean, I know it sounds really stupid, but I can't remember a time when that wasn't really there. And I'm not saying that pain was constant, because it wasn't. But I experienced it, like, possibly if I'd have done a journal, and I didn't even think to do one then. You know, my mum and dad, like, you know, we didn't make a fuss at the doctors. I'm not saying anything against my mum or my dad. But, you know, I wasn't really Mardy as a child. Emotionally, I was emotionally sensitive. There's no doubt about that in my mind, and anyone that knows me would possibly say that, you know, they could agree with that. So I just put up and shut up, and it was normal to me. And if I did try and explain my symptoms, it was like I was talking a foreign language, and so I just learned to keep them to myself. Starting my periods earlier. You know, I was probably in the just slightly earlier than average category. They weren't like, you know, of these girls having periods at 12, and, you know, I didn't start my menstrual cycle or 10, I think someone once told me. God, awful. So yeah, that didn't really ring any alarm bells. And from my point of view, you know, I wasn't. There was people that had started before me, put it that way, and that were developing earlier and way before me. So, but what was another symptom linked to my menstrual cycle was very heavy, painful periods. You know, always had to have Feminax because paracetamols by this point wouldn't touch the cramps, the dizziness, the lethargy. It's like lethargic. Oh God, was like an understatement. The PMT, I was very tearful back then, and that sort of transpired into possibly being on the more hostile, aggressive end as things went on. But back then it was just more tearful, like a lot, you know, just felt really vulnerable, and I didn't know at the time because I didn't give it much thought. You are just what you feel, and you just get on with it. And you know, if nobody sort of says, what's that you've felt or experienced, or what that pain is, because it could be whatever, and so it wasn't brought to our attention. But yeah, just really awfully painful periods, you know. I'm not just talking cramp of the uterus, you know. Like, it used to hurt all down my legs, you know, even my kidneys hurt me. But I didn't know what kidney was at the time, and so I suppose, you know, it could have been radial pain. So like, you know, you can sort of know, you know, where the pain's coming from, but it's like felt in, you know, other sort of areas that are linked. So yeah. You know, craving sugar and just feeling fed up, real fed up. So yeah, when I was hungry, and if it was that time of the month, if I didn't eat when I needed to, you know, school is one big one, you know, or if we were out as a family, sometimes if I was out with my friends, you know, we weren't always going to say, go back for something to eat. On occasion I did, but you know, come from the old school, you know, come back before the street lights come on, otherwise I'll be coming to find you. You know, we didn't have phones, watches and all that, and oh God, was it much better back then. New school like the old school. So, sorry about this. So yeah, I also know that during this time, although I don't really know the years that it became, you know, that it became obvious, I need a wee. But I know it was during my school years that I started to experience really bad depression. yeah, really bad, you know, it would come in waves and peaks and troughs or whatever. Um, but, you know, it wasn't unmanageable per se. I am inclined to think now, I don't know for sure because I didn't experience without any antidepressants or mood stabilisers. But my first protocol was to go to the doctors and to get whatever tablets they were going to dish out and hope that there would be some side effects that I could possibly get some kind of a high from. Yeah, that's the mentality that I eventually slowly declined into. A big part of me knows, you know, that this was just a consequence of being overtired and not even knowing that I was, you know, at the time. It's always easier in hindsight. So I'm going to have to go to the toilet. Got with me my smoothie, trusty smoothie, and I've got my supply of black grapes, you know, that I take absolutely everywhere. And also, how long have I been trying it for now? Since Thursday, I received a little package of dandelion tea to try. And so, yeah, this is the fourth day, I believe. So I will make sure that I will keep you updated if any of you were interested in, you know, if any benefits come from drinking it on a regular basis. And currently I'm just drinking 2 cups of dandelion tea. It's meant to be a good liver tonic, good for acne prone skin, which, yeah, is a major issue. Or has been, you know, it's under control a bit now. Well, it is manageable. And the reason why I said that, what I said, is basically because because I occasionally eat too much of the wrong stuff, you know, and it shows in my skin. So, what else? I remember from a really early age that if I'd got really, really upset and, you know, like to the point of crying or sobbing, my own tears would sting my face. I thought everybody, you know, had to cope with that. And like I would get like headache without a doubt, really low mood. I'd feel like poorly, almost like I have flu symptoms. If I, got really, really, really emotional. And, you know, there was no getting away from the fact that I had been crying. My parents and anyone that knew me knew straight away, because there was no escaping. My eyes would swell up. They'd be like bloodshot, and just puffy, like what I would call an edema, fluid retention. So yeah, as early on as, being a small child, toddler if you like, my tears hurt me. And if I didn't wash my face, this progressed to the point where if I didn't wash the tears off my face, oh God, yeah, it was like it would burn my skin, and I'd come out like in a blotchy rash, just, irritate my skin, just oversensitive. Also, what was different from my school peers was when I used to go swimming with school, when I was learning, beginners and intermediates and whatever swimming, that the chlorine would like bring me out in a rash, like all over, but mainly around my eyes all the time. It would make them swell, just make them really uncomfortable, like stinging all the time for days, possibly 3 or 4, and then you'd be coming back round to the I don't know if it was weekly or bi-weekly, every sort of 2 week with school, but without fail it would affect me like that. So yes, oversensitivity to sort of chemicals. And so, but I didn't put 2 and 2 together, because at the time I didn't even see reason to. And being of a certain age, unless it's worrying for a parent or, a guardian, well, for one, you don't go to the doctors on your own until you get to a certain age, and all that sort of stuff. So I think really the first time I went to the doctors on my own, I mean my parents took me, but I went in on my own, was to ask for the contraceptive pill. And it was mainly because I was having a sexual relationship with my then first real long-term boyfriend. But also it was, I say about a third of the reason was the heavy and painful and problematic periods. And also there was, thrown into that mix was the problem skin. And I'd heard a few people say that it was good for, balancing out your hormones, and it was meant to lower, in some people anyway, it could actually lower the PMT, and so yeah, I didn't realise at the time that by doing that alone, by just being on birth control, that I took just a natural female process. I took it for granted, and I just regarded it as something that was like, it was an inconvenience, like massively. Like I used to mope about it, I used to mardy about it, I used to dread it. On top of the week, well, that's a bit of an exaggeration. 4 days before I was due to come on, I would always get the PMT, always get the mood changes, and the fatigue, and the food cravings. So, yes, and also the stomach cramping. So, so why I'm saying that is because the emotional and the mental you know, implications, if you like, I can't think of the word. Yeah, the mental and emotional implications of being able to control my own menstrual period with just popping a pill, it made me somewhat lazy and very disregarding of just a natural process that, you know. But that being said, they were something to dread, and I mean were something to dread. You know, I wasn't quite as bad as how my mum was when she was, you know, still having her period, but she had a real bad time. You know, and it's not for me to say. Yeah, it's not for me to say because it's not my story, but what I remember of my mum, you know, struggling. Yeah, I can remember thinking, I hope I'm not like that when I'm older and that age, you know? And just so like, yeah, just so immature in mind and emotion. And just remembering, you know, I mean, it sounds awful, but just, I'm glad that's not me. And just so childish like that and immature, like, in general, back then. And so, yeah, although I won't blame my doctor, there's no doubt that that doctor, can't remember even who they was, he, she, them. I don't really care to remember, but, you know, they didn't once say to me that there would be any mental, emotional, character or personality changing implications of that. And why do I say personality? Well, I'll tell you for why. You know, being impatient, being entitled, you know, and that comes from wanting control. And is it not control? Taking, you know, the contraceptive pill, like, you know, you can skip whole periods if you want, you know, if it's your holiday and you're going abroad and you don't want a period and you do on, you know, you could tweak it here and there. And, you know, sometimes I want to have periods for like, God, like months and months and months, and that can't be good. can remember him saying that it wasn't like a proper period, it was like side effects of being on the pill. But it's a synthetic hormone. Think, girls, think what that's doing to your body. There's some things in life you have no control over, and my advice is to learn that as quick and as early, as young as is possible. Because, you know, the more you try to maintain that, uphold that, or keep control of that, you're just cutting corners. And it's being ungrateful, and it's being repressive of your body. But you know, in my defence, and in their defence, in society, nobody stops to look at the flowers. Most people have all but forgotten that we have flowers. Most just don't even care whether we do or don't. We're all racing against the clock. Pays to be mindful and aware of the mindset that we're in. You know, I didn't realise until I was long down certain paths that, you know, trying to take shortcuts is not the way, you know. One thing that changed this for sure was becoming a mum myself, but that's a bit further on into this healing journey. Another symptom that I just assumed was normal, I'd never known to be without this symptom or ailment or issue, but I had a poor ability to cope with hot weather, if it was really hot and humid, but more so the cold. And even way before I'd even, you know, smoked my first fag, I had what they call, I didn't know at the time, but what is called Raynaud's disease. And, you know, if you have this, you will know and be able to relate on a personal level that it's like, it doesn't even have to be generally cold, but if you feel cold, you'll know through experience that all the blood seems to come out of your fingers, my nose, it used to affect my nose as well, and my feet, all the way up to my knees at some point, you know, in this transition to bad health, and, you know, before trying to dig my way out of the hole. But it was like my hands were multicoloured, blotchy, purple, like from here, and red, but I would have blue or grey knuckles, numb, you know, like it got that bad once, it felt like I was walking on stumps. And so it's a circulatory disease, but also autoimmune. And my mum also still suffers with this, you know. And just for the record, I don't anymore. I've got a higher tolerance level of extreme temperatures. I would say it's funny because it's like flipped, but I can cope with the cold a lot better, like millions better than I could, for sure, for sure. Even my daughter, she has noticed, you know, at one point my hands and feet were always pink. Um, and when I don't look after myself to this day, you know, as in like poor diet and don't look after myself and too much sugar, which I have cut out of my diet now, you know, added sugar, because I've been using stevia instead of, but not only that, you know, when I feel brave enough, I'm not having even that in. I must be getting sweeter by the day. So yeah, Reynard. Right, so I've been on the live stream, you know, nearly an hour and 2 minutes. So I don't want it to be too long. It is too long already. So I'm going to leave it there for now, but I am going to pick up with another video very shortly. So that being said, get your black grapes in, your sable grapes, your Victoria grapes, get your smoothies. Grape skin. Love you all. Be healthy, be happy, be empowered. And most of all, be loved. Love you, for you, by you. Love you all. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Before I go, please, if you're new to my channel, if you like my shit, please subscribe to it. And if you like it, put a thumbs up. If you think it's shit, put a thumbs down. And please, if you do, put a thumbs down. I want a comment explaining why. And then you need to ask yourself afterwards, why listen? Why watch? Just saying. So yeah, if anyone could benefit from anything that's in this video, a bit of it, all of it, you know, share with people, you know, who you know could benefit. No, that being said, take care and bye-bye. Bye.